Here's why I think that 100,000 XCN is very important for me. Even though nothing I say is financial advice, it's because I feel like when it comes to my XCN holdings, it better not dip below 100,000. Now, I'm not just saying this because I think it's a cool number. Here's the thing. If let's say XCN were to go to the price of $1, then at that point, 100,000 XCN would hypothetically be worth $100,000. Now, that's very simple math, but here's the thing. Some people may think, oh, you know what? How is that good enough? Well, personally for me, I hold a bunch of other projects in my portfolio. I'm not saying anyone has to buy XCN. I'm just saying in my perspective, it doesn't seem too bad to me. Now, some people may be thinking that, oh man, the bull run is taking too long when it comes to altcoins, but really, we need to wait for the moment when altcoins truly do wake up, because right now, it's Bitcoin's time. Now, not too long ago, Bitcoin reached a new all-time high. So I'm assuming, right, that probably a very large majority of individuals, like when it was like at that exact all-time high, they probably are either in profit or like either bought at that all-time high, give or take, right? So I'm assuming a lot of people were in profit, so they were very happy. And then now a lot of people are like, oh man, look at my friend who bought Bitcoin. Look at this, look at that. We're not doing that good, all this type of stuff. But personally for me, here's the way I view it. Bitcoin in the next 6 to 10 months, logically, right? Maybe could it do a 3x? Let's say it goes to the price of around $300,000. Well, give or take, maybe, but it can't do like even a 10x in my opinion. And we got to think about this, right? XCN at the price of $1, that's around a 50x from here. Now we got to think about that. Can Bitcoin do that in the next 6 to 10 months? I'm not saying 30 years later. I don't think so. Again, 30 years later is a different story, but in the next 6 to 10 months, I don't think so. So logically speaking, as of right now, would it make sense for me to, FOMO into Bitcoin when it's like, just reaching its all-time high price, or just most recently, right, when I at least started recording this video? But I'm just saying, would it be logical for me to go all in that? Wouldn't make any sense. I'd much rather believe in XCN and a bunch of other altcoins too. Quite frankly, around a 3x is very boring, and I think anything under a 10x actually is very boring to me as well. So when it comes to something like XCN, I think it's very fantastic for me. Now, some people like to wonder, right? Oh, do we have to wait for $1? No one has to wait for that, in my opinion. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but if some people are happy with like a 10x, let's say, or like a 20x, then okay, that's hypothetically good enough. I'm not telling anyone to, oh, you have to stay till $1. I'm not saying that, right? Some people are happy with a 10x, a 20, 30x, whatever the case may be. If I had a $10 million, portfolio all in Bitcoin, yeah, sure, I'll wait for 300,000. Why not, right? Or maybe even just 200,000, but I don't have $10 million in Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So I'd much rather believe in XCN. Now, we have to think about this logically as well. When the altcoin season really kicks in, something like XRP and XLM, they're going to gain a lot of hype, right? But then eventually, we do know that historically, people eventually move on to other projects. So when we think about that, what could be a viable option within the sphere, I would say, of like, these type of financial focused projects, right? Like the ones that are focused on global trade and finance and the payments market. Of course, again, XRP and XLM, but number 3 is like pretty much XBC. I think eventually some of that is going to flow into XCN. So I don't see why this would be like a bad narrative when the bull run really kicks in for altcoins. Not to mention as well, historically, we've seen XCN do very well, at least when altcoins were doing pretty good. So I don't see why that can't be replicated if, let's say, the altcoin season does as good as that, if not better, right? Imagine if the hype and attention we saw not too long ago for altcoins was like, increased by a 5x. Are we saying that what we saw not too long ago when it comes to XCN can't 5x from what it was before? Hypothetically, at least? I just don't see why not. Now, there is no guarantee that XCN is going to do well moving forward, but I just don't see why not. Now, some people as well like to complain that, oh, there's too much competition right now because there's so many projects. Well, the way you take a look at it is that, yes, that is true, because when we view, a lot of these launch pads, there's a bunch of, random meme coins, just random nonsense projects being launched all the time. But in my opinion, even despite it, being a very large amount, I think a very small percentage, like at least for me, it feels like 99.99% or whatever, it just feels like very bad. And it doesn't feel that viable to me. So having a lot of competition as of right now, yes. But is it good competition? Nah, I don't think so for the most part, right? Do we have more good competition right now when compared to back in 2021? Yeah, we do. But it doesn't feel like a drastically higher amount, if you know what I mean. There's more competition, but it doesn't mean it's good competition, if that makes sense. When I take a look at Onyx, I get it. It's a little bit boring to some people because they think it's not doing much. But really, when we take a look at like its competitors, like for instance, Zebic, right? Zebic is pretty much focused on its cards as of right now. A bunch of projects out there have cards. Now, I'm very bullish on Zebic, but also if we take a look at something like XDC, I just kind of feel like there's not really much like fantastic news going on for it when it comes to what they're doing and all this type of stuff, right? So when we take a look at, XCN's most closest competitors, they're not really doing that much either. So when people like to say, oh, Onyx is too focused on Goliath and all this, right? They say, oh, Goliath is going to suck and all this. Well, only time will tell when it comes to that, right? Goliath allegedly going to be this very amazingly run blockchain. We'll see. But I'm just saying, the way you take a look at it is that the other competitors, they're not really doing that much either. Now, if the other competitors were doing like a lot of things and XCN was only doing like, one or two things pretty much, then yeah, it's a little bit concerning. But the other competitors, they're not really doing that much either. So I don't think it's that bad. And I don't think it's going to be a major factor, especially during a fully fledged bull run. And let's say some people like to say, okay, a dollar is too much and all this. Well, going to the price of a dollar, I get it. It's around a 50x from here, and market cap at that point is around a 33.5 billion, right? In terms of dollars, of course, and that's considering current circulating supply. Now, people may think it's a little bit insane, but in my opinion, if let's say there's a fully fledged bull run and many people out there are saying, oh, something like XRP is going to go to like a $1 trillion market cap, something like, XLM is going to go to around 300 billion. If let's say all that type of stuff does happen, or let's say even just like half of that, right? I just don't see why around $33 billion in terms of market cap, is too much to ask for when it comes to XCN. Why can't some of that volume flow into this? This is just my perspective. But really, sometimes when I'm, thinking about altcoins and all this type of stuff, I have to remind myself that, altcoins, as a worst case scenario, they usually peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event, which based on the last one would actually mean around October this year. Now, some people out there may be thinking, oh, that's too long. Well, not really, right? I mean, we're almost in June as of right now. So October doesn't even seem that far. And in the world of cryptocurrencies, people may think that, oh, this is kind of long. But really, in the past, things usually do pump when we least expect it to do so. And they usually do it very quickly. Take a look at Dogecoin back in 2021. Now, there's no guarantee that, near the end of this year, altcoins are going to peak. But with the way the markets are heading as of right now, I really don't see why not, in my opinion. If let's say it kind of continues on moving forward, I'm not going to say there's going to be no pullbacks because hypothetically there probably will, because along the way, some people out there, they just want to take profits, whatever. They don't want to be in cryptos anymore. It depends on a case-by-case basis, right? But whatever. But personally, for me, I'm going to be holding, and I'm totally prepared that, there's going to be multiple pullbacks along the way. So again, that's the only thing I can control. I can't control the markets, so the only thing, again, I can control is just accumulating, holding, and just waiting. That's it. But you know what? 100,000 XCN, my holdings better not dip below that, right? And of course, I'm not talking about $100,000. I'm talking about 100,000 XCN. But this is just my perspective. And make sure to subscribe if you gained value from this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.